Okay, well, let's move on. We're kind of delayed here. We'll move on to item 4 unless anybody else has some burning question about the current subject. Alright, that topic's closed then. The fourth item I have on the agenda is the role and tasks of the national coordinator and sub-coordinators. There has been some confusion lately on what is the structure of the movement right now, what is important to do as a coordinator, and what is acceptable. So I think it's a good idea to briefly go over these specific tasks and the actual role of the national and state, provincial, whatever, city coordinators. First, let me explain again how the movement operates. Everybody can be in support of the movement, of course. We cannot ever exclude somebody from the movement, but in order to move forward, we have the official communication structure, if you will, and we have people that support the movement in their own way, which in chapter language would translate in unofficial chapters. Nothing isn't I don't know the right English word, but it's not as if they are less of a chapter, it's just that they don't function within the communication structure. And the official chapters, as most of the coordinators that are present here represent, is part of a sort of system that we have put up in order to keep the integrity of the information at the best rate, and also to move forward with the global movement. With the global movement and its organization. Within that communication structure, we do have coordinators, national coordinators, sub-chapter coordinators, and other coordinators. And one good thing to address here, like I said before, is what the specific role is of this national or sub-chapter coordinator. The role of the national coordinator, in essence, is generally to make sure that everything goes okay. It should speak for itself with the chapter that they're coordinating, but they also have a leading or decision-making role. As we are growing as a movement, we're very young, we cannot afford to get lost in a sort of forced-on democracy system. Doesn't make sense. It will delay a lot of decision making at this point in time. So national or sub-chapter coordinators are expected to at least guide the decision making process so that it goes fluently, and in any case that it doesn't go fluently, they're also expected to make the decision on behalf of the official chapter, so to say. So point 1 is that the national coordinator has a decision-making role in some some cases. Also, one very important responsibility that a national coordinator has is to make sure that the communication with the global movement runs smooth. He or she can either do this by staying in touch with the movement by attending meetings themselves, but it could also be done by designating a so-called communications person that is taking over that task. That is also fine. For the sake of easy communication, it is also asked that even if a country or state decides to have multiple coordinators, that one is designated as the coordinator that is in contact with the global movement. Otherwise, it will be quite frustrating to sort out who to communicate with. So what else does a national or state coordinator do aside from the parent things that I just mentioned? Well, one thing that we might not have stressed before other than in private conversations is that it is very important for at least a national coordinator to moderate content on any subchapter that goes below the national level on the websites. An example of that would be is if in country A there is a subchapter starting and they're starting a website, then it would be expected of the national coordinator to at least check up on what is described in the chapter's guide as terms for an acceptable website that is fit in the official communication structure. A very simple example would be that they need to have the understandings on their web page. The menu structure should be similar to, or at least have some resemblance to, the other website, and if not, it has to be representative of the organization as a whole. So there's no tab there with aliens and how we, well, I don't know, 2012 shit, stuff like that. So that's obvious, but that's definitely the responsibility of the national coordinator. A national or state coordinator is also responsible for all the activism that happens on the subchapter level or anything that goes down from the national level. So whenever that activism happens, we expect the national or subchapter coordinators to have at least good communication with the people performing the activism, make sure they're up to date with what we do as a movement right now, so they won't go around burning banks or stuff. That's obvious, but also in less extreme examples, make sure they're at least up to date with what we think is a good way to go about it. Obviously, you can't control everything that happens, and we don't expect that, but a decent amount of moderation is of course very much appreciated. Also, what you should be doing is maintaining a spreadsheet or something like with any subchapter information that you have and its coordinators and their contact info. You do not need to have the full address, but it's at least appreciated if you have a name and an email address, so we know who is heading the subchapters in your country. Also, it speaks for itself that you are responsible for all the country-related email, and we expect you to handle that decently. We haven't had any problems with that till now, so I'm happy for that. But well, we had it on a subchapter level, but most national coordinators have handled this nicely. Always stay professional, never get blown up in an email exchange, as you are a representative of the movement, and of course sometimes you can get frustrated, but in that case always ask for some assistance or some advice as you are performing a certain role here. What is also expected of national or subchapter coordinators is to hold periodic meetings. Of course, dependent on what kind of time you have to spend on the movement, you could for yourselves decide on what kind of continuous basis this has to be. If you have a monthly meeting, that is fine. If you have a really active chapter, you might be wanting to do this more often. We do it weekly in the Netherlands. You might want to do it weekly or bi-weekly, just to keep up to date with all the members. You have the freedom there, but it is expected that you hold these meetings online or physical. I prefer if you do both, certainly if you're in a big country, but have these meetings, as these are these are very important parts of the week or the month that you can get into contact and consult your members on certain stuff and certain activism that is upcoming. So I'd say that's a very prominent task. I'm looking through the list, give me a moment. Yes. One other thing that hasn't been addressed before is that also as a national coordinator, as I mentioned, you have a certain role that you fit. It's also very important that you realize that once a conflict arises, you are the person that everybody looks up to for mediation. So when you take up a role such as a national coordinator, you have to be prepared that there will be conflicts, there will be discussions going on that will go out of control. These are natural, these are things that occur when people are working together for a long time. I've had a fair share of hundreds and hundreds of hours on the international level, so I can only imagine that on the national level there will be times that you will be necessary to mediate in conflicts. So I want every national coordinator to be prepared for this, and mentally also make some good strategy plans on how to deal with them. I'm sorry I can't explain very well right now due to me being a little sick, but I hope that went across well. In any case, try not to blow up and go haywire on your chapter members if there are consistent issues. I'm always available for advice, and so is any continental coordinators such as Jen, Cliff, David, Nelson, Mato. So anytime you need some advice, just hook us up.